Hello, folks. Richard Moore, USAGSA. And today I've got with me Emanuel Pastreich with the ASA Institute. Emanuel, glad to have you on.
Pleasure to be there.
Emanuel's in Tokyo right now. Is that right?
I'm in Tokyo these days. Yes.
In Tokyo these days. Emanuel was the presidential candidate with the Green Party for a short time. He has an extensive educational background. He's written books. He's also been a professor, and he brings a whole lot to this conversation, to a lot of conversations. But we want to talk about SAP. And many people may have heard. You may not have heard about it, and I want Emanuel to kind of give us the details on this and what it means. But usually, of course, the mechanisms, folks, for the SAP mechanisms is trauma conditioning, disassociation, fear-based control, gaslighting, silencing, and retaliation, and institutional cover and denial. And so what does that mean? What does that mean for you, for those that are targeted, for those that have no idea what targeting is? What does that mean for America? What does that mean for the world? What is going on? So what say you, Emanuel, bring it around and explain to everybody what this is, why it's important, and why we're talking about it.
Right. Well, SAP, special access programs, are expanding extremely rapidly, so that what used to be something that happened to 1 in 10,000 people is now happening to 1 in 100, and increasingly some of the forms of harassment and surveillance are being applied basically to everybody in certain communities, and I think the ultimate goal is the entire United States and ultimately the entire world. So everybody is affected by this. However, there's an effort in the media and in discussions to sort of make it seem marginal, right? That special access programs targeting individuals are for some crazy people, some radical people, some people that had some bad luck, got mixed up with the mafia or the CIA. And so you should leave them alone, because if you talk about them or if you talk to them, you'll get wrapped up in it too. And that argument, which is, it's not 100% wrong, but it's basically wrong. But it's being spread around on purpose to make everyone feel isolated, when in fact the number of people affected is increasing exponentially. It is in a way, we have this issue of, like, people talk about, well, it's a new civil war, and I think that is accurate. The problem is that we're being presented on TV, in Minnesota or whatever, or Los Angeles, and I'm not denying the reality of that, but the real civil war is this, right? It's against the citizens using these programs. I mean, there's both programs and technologies to isolate individuals, isolate families, communities, sort of cut us up. And it tends to follow.
Is it, Emanuel, to isolate and to manage, to manage this, manage communities, manage certain segments of the population? Is it all about control and managing and so forth? Is that what it is? And if so, how are they doing it?
Right. So on the American side, I mean, I tend to see it in terms of Israeli and American side, but there are obviously other sources of technology and strategy. So on the American side, from the 1950s at least, we had experimentations taking individuals under what was ultimately called MK Ultra, but there are other programs, some of which, by the way, have never been declassified, for targeting individuals and wearing them down. These were done, I mean, then and now. There are two aspects to it. One is people who are picked because they were too effective. They were too articulate. They had good ideas. They were doing research on some topic which is not supposed to be known about. They were developing new technologies which had value that might put other businesses out of business because it was bad.
Tesla was targeted. He had a bad
things like that. I mean, that's a perfect example of a target individual. And so individuals who were too articulate, too knowledgeable, had special skills were targeted. But at the same time, in the last 30 years, maybe last, let's say 15 years, there's another group. And those are people who are being targeted because they represent certain demographics. So they want to use these technologies to control the entire society. So they want to see how, it affects, middle-aged women, right? Or African-American boys, so people are picked out because they represent a certain demographic, not because they were somehow a threat to the state or because they had radical new ideas, but just because they represent certain parts of the population.
How is this mitigated? How is it controlled? And how does it work?
How does it work? Well, so it changes, right? And it's of course changing now. We have different. Originally it tended to be through CIA, Air Force, but now Homeland Security has large chunks of it, and of course, it's all been outsourced to various different subcontractors, including Israeli subcontractors. So in most cases, local government and you know better than me this whole thing, the actual on the ground, but basically local government and the federal government will contract it out to some unaccountable contractor. Let's say Elbit Systems, right? Elbit Systems, for example, or Palantir or Oracle, and they'll run the program. They will use sometimes police officers or people in government, but they say we're not government, right? We're not accountable to anybody. And then they do it. Some of them are just bored. I mean, it's their job. They get money paid well to harass people. But a lot of them are trying to get data. And so I think
when you mentioned, it's funny, you mentioned Oracle. And so what is their...
Oracle's a big player.
It's a big player. What is their newest crown jewel? TikTok.
Correct.
And so,
which is also a weapon. It's been weaponized now.
So how about Meta? And how about Google? And who has the data? Who has the information? Who is able to withhold a narrative or create a narrative? Who's able to do that? And so there you have it. Go ahead, man.
Right. Well, I was just going to say, the American-Israeli link here is important. So a lot of the work in how to use these special access programs to isolate people and destroy communities was the original experimentation was done some in the U.S. On these various programs. Some things at Guantanamo Bay, you remember, and was it what's the other the prison camp in now I'm forgetting it. Algebra, I forget. Guantanamo Bay in 2004, there are all these revelations about the abuse of sexual abuse of various prisoners who were from the Iraqi war and from Afghanistan. And so they were doing various experiments, isolation, sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is also a large part of these programs. But also in Israel, in the Catholic Church, in Israel, they did a lot of this work. And so Israel became a major market for these systems. And Gaza, in the case of Gaza, for example, Gaza could easily have been occupied and taken down in 3 weeks, but it was dragged out over whatever 8 years, right? And the reason it was dragged out was because it wasn't about occupying Gaza, and it wasn't about fighting terrorism. It was about conducting all these experiments to get the raw data. And so a lot of times what you're seeing is that in Israel, these four corporations, multinational corporations, they got the raw data on how to manipulate people, create these special access programs, take down individuals, families, communities, and a whole, sort of a country, right? And they got that basic data. But then they have to customize it to the specific country. The United States, Mississippi, right? Japan, China, wherever it is. And so they have to do research to find out the specifics of the culture, the habits of each country, so they can take the raw data they got about how to take down a community from the work in Israel, or for some maybe in Iraq or Afghanistan, and apply it to Norway or Italy, and so that a lot of the experimentation, people who find themselves in these special access programs, is because they're experimenting to see how to localize these control systems for the specific culture of, say, Mississippi.
Well, say that. So, is it geared to a situation where they take a country, for instance, and and they divide it and destroy it and create mayhem and chaos, only to rebuild it and structure it into a managed population? Is that would that be a fair assessment? That is what's going on.
Well, we saw this in the case of Katrina, right? In New Orleans. And New Orleans, by the way, they brought in Israeli security companies to contract out a lot of the rebuilding of New Orleans following this model. So, there are two parts of it. One is this sort of idea of controlling. This is Blackstone is the sort of the master of this, right? You take over the land, the community, you buy up all the local stores, and you essentially own the entire thing, and you can redevelop it. But others, obviously, other multinational investment banks, private equity are engaged in this. And the basic point is to totally disenfranchise. It's slavery. Basically, it's moving towards slavery, and to some degree, that's the big thing, the big blank, right? Is that people say, "Oh, we're in a new civil war," right? But they leave out the critical question, right? The Civil War before was fought over slavery. And guess what? This time it's about slavery. It's the same. It's not the same, but it's the same basic issue. They're trying to, just like the Fugitive Slave Act, they're trying to expand slavery to the entire United States. Now, there are already parts of the United States which are pretty close to slavery as it is, right? You work at a convenience store, or you can't start your own business. Banks won't lend you money, right? You can't start your own business. You have to work for as minimal amount. You go to a church which is controlled by multinational corporations and super rich, and they use it to indoctrinate you and try and brainwash you. And then the rest of your community is a desert, right? There's nothing left. All the little mom and pop shops and stuff, they all were destroyed. Not by accident, right? To create this environment. And that parallels. It's not the same, but it parallels the Gaza operation.
And it brings in of some hybrid form of Stockholm syndrome.
Absolutely.
That's and so masses. Is it possible that masses are suffering from Stockholm syndrome? And that's Stockholm syndrome is that being complicit with your captors. They're doing what they have to do, and you have sympathy for them. and so I know I don't agree with it, but that's what's going on, and so that's the reason we're not getting change. Is because people, even those I don't like it, but yeah, well, I can't tell, because you're not what you're what are you doing? And I don't know what how you challenge that, but I think that's one of the major elements, not just here but abroad.
Right, right. Well, I mean, this is how you challenge it: is you talk about it, and sadly, we have a whole range of people who talk about, I mean, real issues in the U.S., but these are taboo subjects. The actual how it's actually being done, right? How you're brainwashing people, and it's. I mean, I guess I would want to start by saying that if the United States was a truly healthy society to start with, it would be very hard to pull this off. That there is something corrupt and decadent in American society over the last 20, 30 years that makes this much easier. That there's a certain sort of institutional and ethical decay.
Right.
I'm not sure how that started, but it means that, if you and I, we go out in the corner and protest and talk about what's really going on, about the use of these illegal, unconstitutional programs to lock people down and torture them, or the use of nanotechnology to take over your minds and your bodies, the tracking systems, integration of information, which is being run by private multinational corporations. If we talked about any of these things, most people, as you know, will run away. They have no interest in talking to you about. They don't want to know.
When I talk about this destruction and rebuilding, we can to bring an example. COVID. Yes. COVID. I mean,
perfect example.
People, are wondering, well, when are things gonna return back to normal? Well, honey, this is the new normal. If you're talking about when are things going to return, when are all the stores going to be open 24/7? When all this, that's over with. That's over with. Now, and so with each
all the small stores,
with each deal, with each false flag scenarios, and I tell you that's what's going on in Minnesota. I believe that it's.
Oh, for sure.
I believe something. I believe that there's a couple of people died, as you mentioned before we went live here, Emanuel, and I believe that that we've got a major false flag coming out of that deal, and so let's just wait and see. It is going to be. It's that we hadn't seen the last of that.
Right. Deal. Well, I mean, I wanted to avoid talking about Minnesota, not because I'm afraid, but because I don't have all the information about it. But I think what we can say definitively is that it's a setup to force people to choose between two equally dangerous choices, and that it's being played up now that these Democrats are going to be your savior. I mean, it's classic trauma-based decision making, right. And that's 9/11 and COVID-19 were about that. And a lot of these, I mean, the IT companies, obviously they have technology, but another large part, in some ways, the larger part of what they offer, their product, is their understanding of human psychology. So there was a lot of research from the 1950s on to understand how the brain works, how people work psychologically. And one of the things that was the conclusions is that because of the form of the brain, I mean, the brain is basically split between the prefrontal cortex, which integrates information and tries to think rationally in a holistic manner, and the amygdala, the brainstem, which is the fight or flight, right? The trauma-based decision-making. And so by certain false flags and certain signals that are given off in sort of flashy media and advertising, it stimulates the amygdala, the brainstem, to react in a fight or flight. And so people react in an emotional and irrational way. However, because the amygdala overrides the prefrontal cortex, most people think that they're being rational, right? But they're responding in a irrational, trauma-induced way. But they think, oh, I'm being totally rational. I'm doing everything, according to the rules, logically, scientifically.
Right. Well, let me ask you this: you're in Japan. What are you seeing? What are you seeing in Asia? What are you seeing the temperature there as they view what's going on with this? Are they experiencing the same
United
thing,
States?
same type of circumstances?
Oh, well, so this process of slowly caging people, right, putting them in special access programs that limit their basic rights, put them in a situation in which they can't go to a lawyer, they can't go to the police, they can't talk to their neighbors, and they're totally isolated, that this is being expanded in Japan as well, just like the United States or Israel or Great Britain or other countries. I mean, Israel and the United States, I think, are worse. They're worse than what's happening in Asia, but it's happening here too. And it's being done. I think they have massive supercomputers at Amazon or Amazon Web Services or Google or Meta, and they've tracked it out how to slowly expand the number of people subject to these programs so that they can't fully detect it. And in Tokyo, I can see also it's combined with a sort of Gazification of your neighborhood. It may be true in Mississippi too, but they'll start first on the street. They'll have like plastic cones, like every 2 meters or every meter, and then they'll put a iron cone, like a what's the word for it? Sort of a stand, a pillar in the middle,
Yeah,
and then over
barricade.
6 months they'll put like a chain between them, and then after a year it'll become like a wall, and then you can't cross the street anymore. But it's done slowly so that the pedestrian can't notice that their neighborhood's being turned into a high security prison. And this is being done all over the world. I've seen it. I mean, I don't know. It's like in Mississippi, but you can't cross the street anymore. Your neighborhood is, there are cameras everywhere. There are things that block your ability to move. And this was originally experimented in the West Bank and Gaza. This
Right.
slow transformation, like one barrier, then a big barrier, then barbed wire, then a guy with a gun, but done slowly so that people had trouble understanding what was being done.
Right. Well, it's a global thing, and then the individuals, the Americans, which it's all Americans, but there's a segment of Americans, and I'm going to stick with the conservative figure of 8 million. Are classified or have been corralled into this program for a lot of reasons. I believe that we become test subjects, and every excuse known to man is used on a local basis. Well, doing this because fill in the blanks, and how's this carried out in communities? And how do you get the cones and the fences up, and who makes this possible? Well, from my perspective, it's real simple. It's known as, some may know it as Neighborhood Watch, or Project Safe Neighborhood, community-oriented policing, which is not a new concept. It's very real. It is signed off by the Department of Justice. And this holistic approach to policing, meaning everybody does their part. So from both sides of the fence, to everybody working together for one common cause, to have a fill in the blank, a safer homeland, a safer neighborhood, a safer state, whatever. And so, so people will do things when they have, even if it's objectionable to their own conscience. And they found this in I believe it was is it the Milner
experiments?
Right. So what they did is they had a actor with a lab coat on, and had pretending to be a doctor, and a person in the next room, an actor. And so, but the unsuspected person was told to turn this dial up, and it would, in inflict pain, all the way over to the death zone. And so as they would turn the dial, the actor would be carrying out with excruciating pain into the death zone. Over 75% of the people, even people, they were crying. They didn't want to do it, but they did it simply because the authoritative figure, that lab coat, Fauci, or that person in that uniform or so forth, in that position of trust, is telling them this is okay, this is the right thing to do. Right. And so how does that so that plays out across the planet, folks. This is
absolutely,
this is real. And so this is how people and if they do it so many times, then you have this collective moral
amnesia,
this moral compass that is just a relative moral relativism. It has nothing to do. I mean, in other words, everybody else is saying it's okay, and somehow they feel like it's okay, and so without the change and all that, you've got the barrier created by these people in these communities, everybody participating, and either everybody gets on the same page, and those that are not flying in formation, they're going to be eliminated.
Right. Well, I would like to say, in terms of the background, which is in the changes that have enabled this, one of them has been the shift in America in political discourse and political culture, especially over the last 30 years, to keep harping on democracy. And democracy means public opinion, as these so-called polls reflect, and to move away from a discussion about personal virtue or personal ethics, personal moral responsibility.
Right.
So we create an environment in which we're told, there's this is popular according to these polls. I've never been polled, so I have my serious doubts as to whether these polls really represent the people. But the point is that somehow what is right, what is appropriate, will be determined by polls, by democracy, by votes. But in fact, science, both science, scientific fact, and moral virtue are not determined by democracy. It's never determined by a vote, and so that it's an intentional effort.
It's determined by absolutes.
That's correct.
It's absolute. You have moral absolutes. You have scientific absolutes.
Right.
The law of gravity is an absolute. Now,
right, you don't vote on the law of gravity, right?
But I will tell you that what I've learned in the last 12 months, that could be subjective. Hell, it's we're getting new data, new information from these from. We're not alone in this universe, and all these things are coming out. Of course, I've been saying it that I'm assuming that. At this point, it's fair to say that everything that we were told is open for discussion.
This is a different question. This is a different question. Obviously, everything that we state should. The whole point of the scientific method is that you should be able to question everything, right? And it should hold up to scientific investigation.
That's right. It's about questioning, right?
I totally agree. But that's not what's happening with this sort of emphasis on democracy. So we have this issue, everything is decided. Democracy is the highest value, not ethics, not truth, not science, democracy. And democracy is manipulated by these public opinion polls, which are very unreliable. And even if they reflect what people think, what they think is based on what they're being fed, by TV and by the media and now social media, which is 30%, AI and bots and people. They don't really exist. Not to mention paid agents. I hate to I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but there's a very large number of people now who have side jobs They're paid. I mean, I don't blame them. They don't get enough money from Social Security and other things, but they're getting money on the side to push certain agendas as their opinions, and that's increasingly, along with special access programs, which lock you down and deprive you of all constitutional legal rights. There's also a growing number of people whose job it is to misinform you.
Right. It may be their job to misinform you, and is it possible that they're oblivious to the fact that they're misinforming people? Is it possible?
Well, there are all kinds of examples. I mean, this gets into the issue of how people are being manipulated. So there are different levels. There's the highest, there's basic level of like what information the media allows you to see and what you don't. Obviously, people who are protesting against Gaza, right, are not protesting about 9/11. They're not protesting about COVID, and they're not protesting, about other things that have been done by illegal organizations parading as the federal government. So the only thing they can focus in a very, very narrow topic. So these people, they're not necessarily paid, but you get down to the next level, and there are opinion leaders, and local citizens who are getting paid to push certain agendas. Absolutely. Some of them are being paid explicitly. They get grants from foundations or sometimes government organizations. Sometimes they happen to get awards. Sometimes they win at the casino. There are all sorts of ways that people are paid off. But I think what we have to know, on the one hand, this has been going on at some level, since ancient times. But it's now, it's exponential. It's exploding in a way in America that we haven't really seen before. This sort of high-level institutional corruption in which hospitals, schools, local government, your police department, the federal government, they're working like mafiosos. How can we squeeze money out of people? And there's an increasing number of people. I think it's actually moral decadence. It's a depravity in our culture in which people who are professors or politicians, sheriffs, people who used to have some self-respect are now feeling it's totally okay for me on the backside to take all this money and take this money.
It's the new deal, whatever that is. And
that's true.
It's okay to swear an oath to protect and uphold the Constitution,
take the money,
and to abjectly deny it, and to go back to betray that oath, and for some reason they don't see that as being as hypocritical.
It's one of the really sad things.
It's okay. They've loopholed it, but we're not giving the loophole. They deny it. They've loopholed it. You get gaslighted.
So the important thing, I think, for all citizens to realize is, obviously, human nature is flawed from the beginning. There's been bribery and corruption since ancient times. But we're entering into this sort of exponential uptick. And it's unprecedented. I think it's unprecedented in America. It's never have we reached this level of sort of late imperial Rome corruption, in which basically everything is for sale. And in the case of people in special access programs who are being harassed, I'm really sorry to say this. I know it's very painful for people to recognize it, but when you suddenly find yourself isolated, family members, friends, associates don't talk to you anymore.
Somebody's gotten in their ear and told and they just they use social media, churches,
and some of them have taken the money. I'm sorry to say, but some of them have taken the money. It's not simply
a job or cash or whatever. Yeah,
whatever it was, and so
and they're always labeled as nut jobs or criminals or whatever.
That's classic. That's classic. For me, that was the classic.
In your case, and in many cases, these I don't know, hundreds, thousands, without any fear of exaggeration, of people that identify as being targeted. And now we could get into how they're being targeted, and that's a broad brush. There's a million different ways. But the synonymous thread in this is these people are not dummies. They're not dummies. Right. I mean, they're not criminals. Now, they've been painted as such. For instance,
crazy.
You were on the ticket as a presidential candidate. Now, you want to share with anybody that don't know. You've got you went to what universities did you graduate from?
Oh, well, so I don't mean to be boastful about it, but I was originally I'm an Asia expert, and so I studied at Yale and at Harvard for undergraduate and my Ph.D. And as an American, that's how I got in trouble, right? I speak Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, and back in 2000, I was working with various people in Asia to try and find some way to resolve the conflicts the United States was in Asia. And that was, of course, a big mistake. Since those conflicts...
Have you ever been accused of a crime, or do you have a criminal record?
Only mental illness. I haven't been accused of...
Other than being crazy. Now, so...
Crazy.
No crime. If you were in the United States today, would it be difficult to get a job for you?
Well, I haven't been able to get a job in the United States since 2004. I worked
maybe
for 2 years. So from 2005 to 2007, I worked at the Korean embassy in Washington, D.C. So on extraterritoriality, I'm not actually working in the United States. I'm working in Korea. But after 2 years of that, when it was clear, and it was a very low-paid job, it was clear I couldn't get any work anywhere else, I moved to Korea with my family. And so I tried to come back to the U.S. in 2019, and then we ran into, a little bit of COVID fun. And that's when I decided to try and run for president, not because I thought, it was so easy for target individual. I mean, I can't even be interviewed by the media. I don't exist. So it's not easy to become president. But I thought it was worth it, at least to have somebody out there, calling out the real issues.
Absolutely.
So that was the whole point of the campaign, and we continue to work on this. I mean, the one is to say, we can't say it enough. There's a civil war in the United States going on, and we're supposed to see it as a red-blue war between, whatever, Minnesota and Mississippi or whatever. But that although it's not 100% a lie, there's a little bit of truth to it. The real war is between a small group of multinational private equity and multinational firms and their stockholders and billionaires to destroy civil society and to make it so that you can't own anything. You can't own your own business. You can't get money from the bank, and you're tracked 24/7. And that your future, whether it's in Mississippi or Minnesota, is going to be like Gaza. Gaza is the model. That's the future.
Right. And folks, I want to say that we're going to be back next week about the same time, and we've got other people that panelists, if you will, that from all over that people that Emanuel and I correspond with and so forth that have their field of expertise and that bring a lot to this conversation. And so what we want to do here, folks, is if you hadn't been tuning in to tune in, and the things that you need to hear, and the things that you want to be discussed on a broader platform. That's what we're doing here. So I encourage you to invite other people and to share this. And if you have comments or questions, you can post that down there below. Our contact information is in there, and we're gonna.
Can I say something?
Go. I want you to. Yes.
I just wanted to say, one of the things we've been discussing, everybody, is setting up a political action committee, a PAC, which would advocate for the rights of target individuals, people subject to special access programs. And so there are various organizations out there that pretend to do so, but most of them are very ineffective. So we'd like, if we can raise a little bit of money to set up a political action committee, and that would be able to lobby congressmen, be able to put out ads, to hold events, and to sort of start real political action, so that we become, like African Americans or veterans or whatever, a real visible
and keep this in mind. We're speaking for those African Americans and for those veterans, and for all the people that have been somehow marginalized and dismissed and essentially discarded or slated for destruction. We aim to get our voice. Now, I think what separates what we're doing and what we're proposing, as opposed to maybe there's a lot of good people out there doing a lot of good things and a lot of good information. But I'm telling you, folks, that here we are, 2026. It's more of the same. And a lot of people get a little squeamish about getting into certain areas that are maybe fearful for whatever. And that is not the case for anybody that knows me. This is where I come in, because I will continue to fight and advocate and be a warrior for victims. And we're going to pull all the stops, folks. We're going to pull all the stops. This is as real as I can make it. I'm not going to promise you anything, but what we are intending on doing is building a coalition. And the people that are out there, the coalition, and working together where we can build this situation where we can influence and these lawmakers and these people that can change what's going on. And I mean, think we're not doing that. We haven't been doing it so far. Can we do that? Absolutely.
Right. I mean, one of the major problems we have in America today is that you'll see on TV certain people who are subject to discrimination or abuse who are approved. And they'll be all over the TV. We'll talk about it. Minnesota is a perfect example of that. But then you have people who are somehow caught up in 9/11 or said the wrong thing about 9/11, or they're caught up in COVID-19. They said the wrong thing about COVID-19. They're caught up in some false flags or targeted projects, and they said the wrong thing. They're in the wrong place, and they're marked for life. They have no rights, no constitutional rights. They're subject to constant abuse, torture in some cases. Some of them have been killed. And these people who are suffering don't exist. Those people who are protesting about Gaza, bless their hearts. They're protesting about, ICE, bless their hearts, but they will not say a goddamn word about these tens of thousands of Americans who have been subject to the worst forms of persecution. And
right now, as we speak, if you think this objectionable or deplorable, what you're being told on the news about you see what you're seeing playing out on the news, and you ain't seen nothing. Do I know people personally? I know people personally that have begged me, go to the FBI, please tell them this is what it's doing to learn about their murder, so-called suicide, a week and a half later.
For sure.
Hands on. This is something I've lived and I see it. Yes. They're no longer with us. The story that was told about this family member of how they died or disappeared was a lie, and nobody will listen to them. That they don't matter. They have been absolutely dismissed because somebody said, well, they wrote it off. This is what we're speaking up for, because everybody does matter.
Absolutely. I mean, I have the highest respect And I really feel terrible about what's being done to people in Gaza and the West Bank. But I tell you, if you're put in an American private prison, they will do to you at least what they will do to people in Gaza. There's no difference.
We already know that. We already know that. All you have to do
There's no difference.
In
it's
Alabama,
the same thing.
in Alabama, in the prisons in Alabama, what's going on there?
But they're using dogs on people to tear them apart. I mean, the torture program.
People that were the officials killing inmates in the last 10 years. Mississippi prisons alone, there's been over 50 homicides, 50 murders in Mississippi prisons. Not one person has been tried or charged for murder. Now, where's the outrage? Where have the tens of thousands of people said, look, we did this innocent person? Now, they said, well, these people are in prison. They're not innocent. Well,
right.
You know,
right. Well,
I'm not going to go down that road, but what I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, no, well, it's true. I mean,
these people are mothers, are fathers, and children. Right. They have children, or it's somebody else's child, and they matter. They are human beings. And these
most of the criminals are in high office,
and it's absolutely ignored. Or
right. Absolutely.
What the numbers they give us, Emanuel, is 22 veterans a day commit suicide. That's just the numbers they give us. It is tremendously higher than that. We'll never get the real numbers, and it should make people wonder. Well, what is really going on? That's what we're talking about, folks. That's what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Is what's really going on is that this very large percentage of individuals across the globe are being systematically targeted and eliminated and destroyed right before your very eyes. And
that's
it's
absolutely right.
high time that we have a voice that can be heard. I mean, if there's other PACs that have a voice, and some of them have a big voice, like the ADL and so forth. But
I can tell you that I have friends who've gone to, like, was it the ACLU, whatever.
ACLU. At one time now, ACLU would do it. They were told to stand down.
If you're in one of these programs, these organizations are useless. They won't even talk to you. In fact, they will be harmful. They'll be harmful to you.
ACLU tried. They tried, and they got a stand down notice, and honey, they stood down. So that's exactly what happened. I went to. So you waste your time with them now.
No, that's true. I mean, I went through six lawyers, all of whom refused to do anything, and it's pretty standard. And but we don't give up. I mean, we're not giving up. It's like slavery. I mean, we're back to where we were in 1859, basically, and slavery was legal, right? I mean, it was okay to do these things to people. And in 1858, 1859, slavery was expanding, and it was a lot of poor whites in not just in the South, but in Kansas, Nebraska, and other places. Their rights were being restricted. And the whole plan at that time was basically to turn the whole country into a slave state. And that it's not the same, but it's following the same trajectory. You start with a small group and you make them slaves with these special access programs, and then you expand it until everybody is in.
Absolutely. Well, folks, we're going to wrap it up with that. If you're not subscribe, share. Welcome your comments down there below. All that's important. Excellent. Our contact links, all that stuff is in the description of this video. And until next time, God bless you.